When you openly embrace something that has a singular image, a brand image like the Nazis, it's fair game to say you are very much a part of hate, that you're spewing hate. GOP senators break with Trump over nominee's racist texts. According to the Times, President Trump's pick to lead the Office of Special Counsel, Paul Ingrassia, is facing collapse after Politico revealed a series of shocking racist text messages. In one, Ingrassia bragged to fellow Republicans that he had a, quote, a Nazi streak in him. In another, he wrote that federal holiday honoring Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. should be tossed into the seventh circle of hell, end quote. At least 4 Republican senators, including Majority Leader John Thune, have said they'll oppose the nomination, enough to potentially sink it if Democrats vote as a bloc. And I don't think there's much danger of any Democrat voting for this nominee. Senator Rick Scott of Florida told reporters flatly, "I do not support him." Ingrassia, a self-described constitutional law expert who once pushed the fake theory that Nikki Haley was ineligible to run for president, has denied the text, denied sending them, claiming they have been manipulated somehow. But his past comments and associations, including representing misogynist influencer Andrew Tate, have fueled outrage. Meanwhile, Vox reports that similar extremist language has surfaced among young Republican activists. When leaked chats showing jokes about, quote, sending people to the gas chamber and open admiration for Hitler, Vice President J.D. Vance dismissed the uproar as pearl clutching. Together, these scandals raise a sobering question. Is the modern GOP ready to confront the hate creeping in within its own ranks, or only when it becomes politically inconvenient? What's the real message here with this administration nominating someone for a senior position in government who says, I have a Nazi streak in me? That's too much, even for a handful of Republican senators. Finally, it looks like there is a line that cannot be crossed. That's a good thing. Let's dig a little deeper here. I used the word hate advisedly and reservedly because I think it is a word that's thrown around a little too frequently in public discourse, and more about that in a moment in our next story. But when you say you have a Nazi streak in it, I just don't know any way of spinning that in a way that doesn't involve hate. I mean, if it's the one thing Nazis are known for, hating Jews, hating people who are different, hating people who don't say Heil Hitler. So when you openly embrace something that has a singular image, a brand image like the Nazis, it's fair game to say you are very much a part of hate, that you're spewing hate. If I say I like chocolate ice cream and you like vanilla ice cream, and you now say, TJ, you're the worst person in the world because you hate vanilla ice cream, well, that's nonsense. I simply said I prefer chocolate ice cream. So there is a huge difference, which we will talk about in a moment. But first, more on this issue. It is interesting to see that some of these Republicans are getting a tiny bit of spine, a tiny bit of backbone, and doing something they've not done much of in the last 10 months. They are standing up to Trump because this is the Trump nominee for Office of Special Counsel, Paul Ingrassia, and you have the Senate Republican leader, John Thune, who's normally doing whatever his president asks him to do, saying, I'm not going to support this guy. Rick Scott, nobody's idea of a liberal civil rights, look out for the little guy kind of politician, is saying, I don't support this guy. What's happening, I think, is a number of Republicans are reading the room, and they're seeing more and more frustration with this administration. They're seeing in their own communities thousands, hundreds of thousands of people coming out for this No King's Day. And they see the day at some point the political support could crater for this administration, even within their own party. And they're trying to prepare themselves. They will say, well, I didn't follow the extreme parts of this. I was only there for the tax cutting and the good parts. I wasn't there for the racism part. You can see that happening right now if you sift through the tea leaves. So let's look at some more of the issues here. Again, it's one thing to say, I think people are sometimes too touchy to shout anti-Semitism or racism. You can be a respectable, honest, non-hating person and make a statement like that. But to say I have a Nazi streak in me is much more extreme. It's okay if you don't admire Martin Luther King Jr. It's simply saying, I'm not a huge fan of King, I don't think automatically makes you a racist. But to say a holiday for Martin Luther King is the seventh circle of hell, given that to most people in popular culture, Martin Luther King stood for one thing: rights for Black people. You're really saying giving rights to Black people is the worst possible thing that could have ever happened to our society. I just don't know how you spin that other than an absolute endorsement of racism. Now, I don't think it's fair to say a lawyer who represented an unpopular person is therefore disqualified from public service. I will stick up for this guy in that regard. Apparently, he represented Andrew Tate, the renowned misogynist, rapist, influencer. I don't think that in and of itself is disqualifying, unless he did it all pro bono. I don't know. And this again ties in to this big story that has kind of not gotten much play in the mainstream media. This Telegram post by an organization called Young Republicans. Now, when you hear that term, Young Republicans, it makes you think of a bunch of, 12-year-olds, maybe 18-year-olds, maybe someone 21, a senior in college. The legal definition of being a bona fide member of the Young Republicans is 39 years old. You can be 39 years old and be a member of this Young Republican organization. Doesn't sound very young to me. And let's not forget, some of the people on this chat that openly embraced Hitler, openly embraced gassing Jews, openly embraced Holocaust, that used the N-word and the most obscene derogatory comments. It wasn't just college Republican. It wasn't just young aides to members of the House and Senate and state legislative aides. It was a member of a state legislature, someone who has voting power, deciding on policies that could affect human life, was in on this group chat where for months, people are just openly embracing their love of Hitler, their love of Nazism, their hatred and contempt for gays, for Blacks, for minorities. And it was just like you and me talking about the weather. It was so commonplace. Vice President J.D. Vance just said, any outrage about that's just pearl clutching, meaning that you're just being overly sensitive. I could tell you, if the tables were turned, if you had a bunch of young Democrats on a Telegram chat room openly talking about their desire to see certain conservatives or members of a Christian religion taken out or fed to lions, they would be so outraged, J.D. Vance would be the first one to hold a press conference demanding the Pam Bondi arrest and imprison all those people as terrorists. And yet here we are on the other side, and it was ignored by J.D. Vance, which is not surprising because he wants to make sure there is no space between him and Trump. He figures if I can just stay on the good side of this guy and he not kick me to the curb like he does everyone else, if I can just stay close to him and never, ever, ever give him a reason to be annoyed with me, I'll get to be president one day. That is clearly the philosophy of J.D. Vance. But interestingly, a number of the senators, Republican senators, are saying, we're going to have to say time out a minute. We're not going to go along this time with what the administration wants. Is this a sign of things to come and new backbone and new morality regarding race and anti-Semitism in the Republican Party? Too soon to tell, but I think it's a positive development.